Last Monday I decided to record my run in the ESL Open Cup because it was a rather special one. Usually whenever I play these cups, the first 1 or 2 rounds are against players that are significantly below my skill level, and then the third or the fourth round are players that I tend to kind of lose to. This time, however, the first opponent already was a 5.5k Grandmaster, and thus a serious challenge and much more fun and interesting to watch in my mind. Now my opponent opens up with a pylon block, Sebest the Best he's called, and I open up with a Stargate, double adept into Stalker. Now pylon block is an okay tool to try and deal with your opponent, but if you're getting a tech before Nexus, it doesn't actually matter so much. And that's what I did here. I got tech before Nexus, I get the Oracle before the Nexus, so I haven't really been delayed too much in my build. While my opponent, well, he just built a pylon and it died for no real reason. I see a Phoenix moving across the map. Now it's impossible that this is a real Phoenix, so it absolutely has to be a hallucination. This gives me some good info on what he's decided to open up. I can boost my Oracle and I start a new Oracle as well, making sure that I don't get supply blocked. So I have a pylon that finishes. With my Adept Stalker, I'm just checking how many units he's building, whether his Warp Gate is finishing up, basically figuring out what is kicking up. Build a Twilight Council at home as well, so I want to follow this up with Blink, obviously, as I continue my work of production. My first Oracle is now out, and this is a really cool move that I can recommend to everyone. It's where you send the Adepts into the main base, forcing a battery block by your opponent, while simultaneously going in with your Oracle, because if you do this, then either the Stalkers are kind of stuck downstairs, or, well, they're already in the main base, but then it's no problem. But if they're stuck downstairs, then they need to either open the door for the Adepts that you just shaded in, or they're just going to lose a lot of workers to your Oracle. Now, my opponent dealt with it quite well, but is still going to lose a lot of workers here to the initial 2 Oracles. 4 workers already on just the second Oracle, and I think I have 3 or 4 on the first Oracle as well. So a very solid start here for me, which I hadn't quite expected. Usually against Protoss players that are, within 500-600 MMR, it is quite difficult to put on a lot of pressure, because these guys, they know what they're doing most of the time. And here I go in, get another kill. His Twilight Council is significantly later than mine. He's also built an Oracle from that Stargate, of course. I don't think I've quite seen it pop up on my side of the map yet, though, so that is a little bit confusing. So I decide to go in here with my Adepts. Okay, what you doing over here, buddy? I almost feel like I should have cancelled that, but maybe this was a fine shade here. More Stalker Warpins in the main base, as the Oracles are coming in as well, and this is just some insane damage that is happening here. GG gets called in 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and I win game number 1. Now, do you too want to win games against Grandmasters? Be sure to check out Extra Wallets, as these elegant looking card holders and wallets not only grant you access to your cards with just one easy click, they will also boost your confidence, allowing you to completely focus on what is important in life. For example, winning games in StarCraft 2. I've personally been using an extra card holder for over a year now and have been loving the wallet as well as its positive effect it has had on my life. For example, I got married and went on a honeymoon. Now, I hear you think, what does Extra have to do with that? Well, my wife specifically mentioned my sleek-looking wallet in her wedding vow, so make of that what you will. If you too want to look like a baller and have easy access to all of your cards, follow the link in the description and pinned comment and use code Harstem for a discount of up to 25%. I was very happy with the way I played there. Felt like my movement with both the Adepts and the Oracles was quite good. So I decided to go for it again. I mean, my opponent also kind of struggled with it, which is always nice. It's good to see this type of weakness that can't really be fixed quickly, because it's not like he had necessarily a very bad build order or he got unlucky with his movement. No, he kind of knew what was happening. He knew I had Adepts, he knew I had an Oracle, but he just lost a lot of workers anyway. So it's just one of those things that is definitely repeatable in that case. If you're outplaying your opponent just kind of based on speed, it is not like your opponent can decide from one game to another. It's like, hey, I'm going to be much faster in the next game. You can't. That's not really a decision for you to make. If it was, then all of a sudden, like the Olympics when it comes to running would be a very weird event to watch. Every time someone just doesn't go quick enough, they just will themselves into moving quicker, which is obviously not quite possible. It's the same in StarCraft 2. So once again, I decide to go for a quick little Oracle. Stalker behind it, as I had seen my opponent's opener as well. Now, my adept movement here is fairly mediocre, as I decide to dive on top of that one probe. It's going to most likely cost me, because I've seen that my opponent, well, first of all, he's not really building anything here. Well, that's kind of weird. There's no Nexus, despite there already being 4 Stalkers out on the map. Trying to get this adept back home. I really need a battery at this point as well. It's very important to get a battery. I lost 1 adept. My opponent has 4 Stalkers. He can start moving across the map and dealing with me. So I'm just going to camp this ramp for a bit. Pretend like I'm strong when I'm weak. And then pull back. So that gave me like 2-3 extra seconds or so where he didn't really want to move up there. I warp in 1 more Stalker. My Oracle is going to make it into the main base. And now I'm going to get the full information as to what this is. And it is no battery. 2 Stalkers get warped into the main. I get 3 kills on my Oracle, but I already have a robotics facility on the way. So this is not really the end of the world in my mind. Just gonna start at Immortal as fast as I can. And then the only other thing that truly matters is getting batteries out here. If you have such a fast robo as I have right now, you're gonna be capable of getting most likely 2 Immortals out before your opponent attacks you with Blink. Because I've seen the Twilight Council, I know what's gonna happen. The one thing you gotta be very sure of is that you can't just die before you get 2 Immortals out. And you can do that by getting, 1 or 2 batteries, and that should be absolutely fine. Continuous gateway production, and make sure to always continue scouting your opponent's Nexus position as well. Because as we can see right now, my opponent decided to go for a little bit of a Nexus behind this, which is a very rare build order. It's not a very good one, I don't think so, because this is all very, just extremely easy to scout. I think if you're playing against an Oracle, you should be aware of that you're always being scouted. Your Nexus location is always visible to the Oracle player. So I don't quite know what these Stalkers are now planning on doing, but my eco is going to be significantly better than my opponent. Now, there's a lot of things you can kind of do from here on out. So you can decide to go for a 6 gate with 1 or 2 Immortals, or you can decide to give up your Oracle for free. Not quite sure if that's what I do. No, I keep it alive. Very nice. Good job, Harstem, from the past. I'm always proud of myself, when I managed to keep units alive, which I were afraid of, that they might end up dying. You also can just expand really quickly to a 3rd base, of course. I am now secure enough that I think I'm capable of getting a 3rd. And if I'm not getting a 3rd right now, it means that I'm going to be oversaturating my natural for quite a bit. Like if I'm adding in more gateways. So I'm not entirely sure what to think about having added that 1 gateway extra already and not quite taking that 3rd base. I think that might have been a mistake, but at the same time, I think something that I personally do wrong quite a bit is that whenever I have a decision between killing someone and kind of macroing out of it, I almost always take the road of macroing out of it. Like if I get a lead in the early game, it's like, nice, I can get a faster 3rd. Well, there's a lot of players who get a lead in the early game and are like, nice, I can kill my opponent. And that tends to be very efficient and very effective as well. So I think it's not bad generally to lead a bit more to the aggressive side of things, although it kind of goes against my nature. I think it is good to kind of train yourself in that way, and then you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't work. But if you always kind of take the macro route, you end up becoming a player that just has no killer instinct at all. And sometimes killer instinct is very useful, especially if you play against players that are better than you, but also you don't want to allow opponents to get back into the game. This was a bad move out of my opponent. My blink is about to finish up. I'm going up to those 6 gateways right now. Good little pickup there. Oh, another good little pickup. Man, it's almost like this guy's a professional player. Look at that. Picking up those sentries and stalker. Now, this blink forward wasn't the brightest thing that I've seen in my life, but still probably good enough. You have these 2 adepts that are on the far left side of the map. Or is it just 1 adept? I'm not even quite sure how many it is. I think it might just be 1 adept. Decide to blink in forward over here as Super Battery does get activated. Something you always really want to take care of. So I'm just going to blink on top of it and then not target it down properly. I guess that happens to the best. I'm like, hey, wait a second. Thought that thing was already dead. Doesn't matter. My army is too big. I get the W and I win my first series of the cup. Up next was AristStory, a Polish player that I think is around 5.8 or 5.9k MMR on the ladder. So slowly but surely the MMR is climbing of my opponent. Second Grandmaster of the tournament here. As I decided to go for a quick little hatch block. It's one of those things that I don't quite do enough. If you're wondering what I'm doing with the probes here, there is, well, I'm not sure if it's a bug or a feature, but it's been in the game for a very long time. If you right-click in front of a mineral patch and then you shift-click on top of the mineral patch, you remove the, I think it's called the deceleration, or I guess the negative acceleration that the probe does, and thus it moves a little bit quicker onto the mineral patch. And I think it can increase the individual probe's mining speed by 6 to 7% or so. And you can do it pretty consistently with 2 patches at the same time at the start of the game. So I think it equals about 5 resources that you gain if you do everything correct. What usually ends up happening though is that while I try to do that, is that I send a probe with minerals in its mouth still back, and I lose 5 minerals. But you know, if you're not aspiring to be the greatest, then are you really trying at all? You know, you can't just be happy not doing it as a professional player. All the top dogs are doing it right now. You'll see that. And I decide to open up with a very different build than a lot of you might be used from me. This is core before Nexus, much more aggressive than the shenanigans I usually get up to. Most of the time I prefer getting faster third bases. I prefer, you know, this money is all I really care about. But this time around I say, no, we're gonna go for aggression. With my first unit is going to be an Adept that will pop out about 6, 7, 8 seconds faster as is usual in this matchup, because my cybernetic score went down before my Nexus. Now, this also gives me much less gas in the early game. And on top of that, it also just gives me 1.2 less probes. So I need to deal some damage with it. Luckily, with this type of an Adept timing, getting damage is much easier. Not necessarily direct damage, but also indirect damage, right? If your opponent has to build an extra set of links, that is technically -1 drone already. And this is something important to keep in mind, is when you are comparing build orders, very often I see players say things like, oh, but this is really bad for my eco. It's like, yeah, that might be true that it's bad for your eco, but it's also really bad for your opponent's eco. And that's something you always need to keep in mind when you have these type of aggressive builds, is that it's not just you who is suffering. Like, you suffer together, and the person who suffers the most, well, sucks for him. Let's hope it's the Zerg. I move in and get a drone kill here instantly, which kind of weird. Just attacked his own queen there for some reason. Been a popular move by Zerg players lately to start attacking their own units in my face. Not quite sure why they do that, if they're trying to taunt me or if they're just not as accurate. It's also a possibility, of course. Second gate is going to get thrown down over here as I start my Stargate. My Stargate is done. I start my Oracle. I want to start sending that across the map, of course, at some point. Now, a risk that you always need to keep in mind is whenever you play a build like this, is that taking a third base can actually be kind of hard, because they usually end up building a lot of links. So you're kind of baiting out a response, but you do have to be ready for that response. I remember back in the day, I love telling this story. It makes me so happy. There used to be a build order in Protoss vs Zerg, which was a 3-gate pressure with Zealot and Sentry. And the goal of that pressure was on 1 base, and then you slowly expand into a natural. And the goal with the build was to force out a lot of units from the Zerg, and you were sharking on the map. That's what they called it. You're sharking on the map, forcing units out from the Zerg. And what would very often happen is that while you were busy forcing out units from the Zerg, is that you didn't actually have a big enough army anymore to deal with the forced out units from the Zerg. So the Zerg would build like 20 links and they just kill your Zealot Sentry force. Like, well, another successful sharking move out over here. Absolutely love to see it. We pretty quickly stopped with that particular build order as a Protoss community. So my opponent comes in with a bunch of links here. Well, bunch. There's quite a few links actually. I'm kind of surprised by that. That's not going to achieve too much. He's struggling targeting my probes as well. They were returning minerals. Not going to get anything. And I killed 10, 12 links there. Start my blink. I have 4 gates coming up soon. I think I actually should have left 1 Oracle at home over here, just to clear that Overlord. This is also, I think, personally, I'm not a huge fan of. I tend to leave Overlords alive for much longer than they deserve. Not that I don't think overlords deserve happiness. I definitely do believe they deserve happiness. That's why I want to send them to heaven as quickly as possible. So in a way, this is I'm providing a service to them, and I'm not even charging them for it. How rare is that these days? Someone just service free of charge. It's very rare, let me tell you. These days, even you have to pay for software as well. I freaking hate that everything is a subscription at this point. I just want to buy, especially with software, I just want to buy the product. Just want to buy it once and never have to think about it again. But they'll have like a $2 a month subscription, and then the all-time purchase is going to be like $350. It's like, holy crap. That's very expensive. That's like 10 years of that service. I don't think that math checks out, but I'm sure it's close. It's completely... they're getting you with their crappy marketing schemes. Freaking hate it so much. Software as a service should be banned. It's a one-time product. Really, really dislike it. Especially if it doesn't make sense. Like for Spotify, I understand why it's the case, but like for like a language learning app or something, I don't want to pay $3 every month. I want to pay $15 or $25 or $35 once. That's it. Boom. Give me your premium now. I want all the features. Most of the time, the free features are very good. Like initially, and then they have to start locking the free features to incentivize people into buying the premium as well. It's a pathetic thing to do. Kind of forgot to talk about StarCraft for a bit there. So I was actually doing quite a few things. I was moving across the map. I saw that he was going for a Hydra all-in, and I decided to take a fort base. It's not because I'm arrogant, but because I think I could hold it. And there's no reason. You could say, why don't you just build 7 cannons on your third and sit back? Yeah, it's probably a good way for me to hold my third base, but I believe that I was in such a good spot that I didn't need to take these extra precautions. So I'm just on the map, I'm having a good time, making sure that the Lynx can't get a run by him. That's one of the most important concepts over here. Try to keep every single Stalker alive. And just before this, on the same day, I had watched a lot of MaxPax games against Zerg, and one of the things he's really good at is just kind of being on the map with his army and then kiting back home. Now, this is the thing we always used to do very well against Terran, of course, but now I think it's extremely important against Zerg as well, especially with this particular build. So what you really want to do is you want to have these Stalkers out on the map with stasis wards while Zealot run-bys are going in everywhere. Like this, it's such a good and powerful play, and it's hard, like just real hard for Zergs to deal with this. Now I'm just adding some cannons, but I'm on 4 bases, so my eco is significantly better. I'm just gonna, once again, continue to try and kite. And even if I'm only getting like 3, 4, 5 links at a time, I'm not losing anything. So these are good trades. Well, these are good steals. Like they're legit steals, I'm just taking stuff away from him, and he's not doing anything at all. I'm just kind of chilling at my ramp. My Zealot run-by is now about to hit. I'm gonna probably have a look as to what is kicking off on the other side of the map over here. Oh, Hydra then? Like, why not actually? For a second I wanted this to send it somewhere. I was like, you know what? I think this is going to be just fine. They'll take care of themselves after this. As my Stalkers are holding at home, I have to right-click a bunch of these drones right now, and life is absolutely fantastic. All right. Yeah, it is pretty much a hold at this point. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot left. My oracles are jumping forward. GG gets called, and I win game number 1 against AristStory. In game number 2, I decided to go for what is also known in the colloquial English as a no-scout. We're just gonna move our probe. Well, this is still known as a no-scout, despite me scouting. Because this scout is so late that it can't really win against anything that is sufficiently cheesy. So you're dead against the proxy hatch, you're dead against the 12 pool. You probably die against the 16 pool as well, to be quite honest. So it's a scout to... I'm not even quite sure what this scout is for. I kind of do it so I can see where the links are going. I think that is important. And I also want to kind of... Well, maybe it's just not good to do. I feel like it's nice to know where the links are going, how many links there are, because otherwise you can't safely send your first adept across the map. It could be quite hard. And I think there might be some things you can still hold as well. Like if there's like some 16 pool with 2 links or something, and maybe you're gonna be fine. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. I decided to pull out of gas. That is a mistake here, as I'll realize in a second, because I kind of autopiloted my build. And you should never autopilot builds. So here I pull out of gas by mistake, and I'm like, wait a second. This Stargate looks like it's about to be done, and I don't have any gas available whatsoever. It's not a very good start here for me, is it? I'm like, oh, that ain't looking all that brilliant here, Harstem. Yeah, so I have a couple of seconds of downtime here on my Stargate, which is actually quite stupid. It's a little bit of a rookie move, as they call it. My double adept shades in. Could probably have finished it now that I'm... It's always hard to say. If there's 4 links there, you're probably going to get 2 drone kills. And then depending on your opponent's movement, you could maybe get more drone kills. You're never going to get out of there, though, if there are just any extra links coming from the main base. So you'll lose 2 adepts for 2 drone kills, a full worker pool away. Like, it's really hard for me to say whether that's worth it or not. I personally believe that I'd rather keep them alive, especially given that I didn't have a 3rd adept on the way, and my 3rd base was extremely fast as well. So I really enjoyed the way that last game played out, just that heavy stalker count, that hero style with the double forges as well. So I was like, you know what, if we can try and play something similar here, that would be great. Twilight Council is gonna get thrown down. Just gonna go into another one of these 4 gate setups over here. Flying around with my oracles. Trying to have a good time. I love that I put a spacing there in between the gateways. It might look stupid, but very often if you're building 2 gateways next to an assimilator and your probe is on the side of the assimilator, your probe gets stuck in between the assimilator and the gates, and it doesn't feel very good, let me tell you that. So here he tried to build a spore. He's gonna lose it. That's tough. Tough to be you, buddy. My double stalkers killed his scouting overlord. That's going to be real nice. Here I'm struggling with an adept. I'm trying to get it back in time for my stalkers to make it out. And that took way more time than it ever should have. It was like an entire 1.5 seconds of me just trying to reroute an adept into my natural wall. Surely there's better ways of doing that. And as my blink is now being chrono boosted out, I'm gonna have my 4 gateways up and running as well. As my battery starts. So still an adept at my 3rd. There's not a whole lot of defense, but I hope it's enough defense in order to kind of deal with all of that. Here, Overlord's being attacked. So that's nice and all. We're all having a good old time. So I probably want to start fighting this crap. Yep, there we go. Gonna start fighting a couple of these links here. Need to be careful though, as my blink isn't quite done yet. This is a mistake that very often gets made, is where you see Protoss players just kind of fighting too much before blink is out. I think that's not so useful, as just adding in a couple of stasis wards. I don't have enough energy on these oracles either, really. Don't have a 3rd oracle, which is kind of painful to watch. I would have loved to have a 3rd oracle here personally, but I don't. I didn't quite have the money available for it. So I'm just going to be kiting back a tiny tad. I don't have any energy on these oracles. That's just real painful. So I decide to chrono my Twilight one more time. Then maybe I can blink out of here, and I definitely can. Start my +1 as well. He now decides to walk into my next stasis trap as well. And I think all of these trades are kind of okay. I get a 4th base, perhaps a bit later than I would have wanted, as well as a 2nd forge, and I start my charge immediately as well. It's very important to start your charge as fast as you can, because charge is the only reason often why you're staying alive. Because of charge you can do run-bys, and without run-bys, life is really freaking difficult. Now my goal in life, at least in this game, is to try and get as many gateways out as quickly as I can from here on out. I need to go up to 6 or maybe even 8 or 10 gateways while continuously trading in the middle of the map. That is really the only thing I kind of care about at this point, this phase in the game. So I have 2 zealots over here, I have a battery. Probably should add a cannon in here as well, although it's not the end of the world if I don't. Just gonna get a gateway wall first. Okay, I actually kind of like that as well. I have 2 zealots there anyway, so in combination with the battery, it should be fairly safe-ish. Like, not super safe, but safe enough, basically. As I'm pushing forward, I now realize his 4th hatchery most likely is on the right side, and I get the confirmation of that right at that moment. It's important to have that type of confirmation. Ooh, real nice suicide there of that link. Well, not a suicide, but a use of that link, putting it in my stasis. Good surround as well, and this is the only way you can really get caught. If you get surrounded, then you can't kite back anymore. But as long as you're not surrounded, you can always end up kiting back, and that's important. I go up to 10 gates here, so I continue moving back as well. Really like how this is going for me, to be honest. Like, I have almost complete control. I do see extra gases being taken, although I'm not sure if I noticed it as well. Usually if someone's taking extra gases when they're playing Hydra Ling, that means they're going into Lurker rather than playing Hydra Ling Bane. Always something that's important to keep in mind. There's so many freaking links out right now. It's really scary for my Stalker count, to be honest. It really is. Always need to keep that stuff in mind. Always need to keep that stuff in mind. As my Zealots are going to start moving in. Gonna have a good time over here. And now I definitely see the 8 gas. And this is such a clean moment right now for me to try and make a transition. Just get a second robotics facility. A Robo Bay. Start Immortal production maybe even. Because really the only thing it can be is Hydra. Like, I know it's not going to be Banelings this time around. It's simply impossible. Or it's going to be Lurkers. Did I say Hydra? Well, we already seen the Hydra. So it's definitely also Hydra. But it's most likely also going to be Lurkers. And I'm trying to out-expand my opponent. Oh, I already have a Robo Bay on the way. I wasn't even aware of that. Would love to see a second robotics facility here, though. Disruptor production starting as well, I think would be quite good. Maybe even start with a Colossus. If you're still in time. If you can hit before Lurkers, then Colossus can be good. Otherwise, I think Disruptors tend to be a little bit better. As my Zealot run by on the bottom side has dealt quite a bit of damage. I'm fighting in the middle. We're gonna have to wait and see what he's actually doing. There's a bunch of Lurkers there that are morphing. I have 170 supply. And my second Robo now finally gets thrown down. See, my Zealot run by on the low ground there is forcing the drones away. And then the Zealot run by in the main is dealing quite a bit of damage. This is a very interesting fight. Welcome back to a new tutorial. How to lose 25 Stalkers in less than 8 seconds. I'm your host Harstem. It's like, well, that wasn't quite brilliant. That actually lost me a lot of map control, that particular move. And my Prism I think is still alive for now, which is good. I'm gonna try and keep that alive, because if I don't have that Prism alive, I literally have no supply. And there's no pressure on the map either. So I need to just set up run-bys right now and try to make sure that my opponent stays back home. The moment he moves out, it's going to be real freaking difficult. Hydra's moving in. We'll get the snipe here on the Prism as well. And yeah, well, that was actually kind of big. Still have some Zealot run-bys on the map, so it's not the end of the world. Although 4 of those are now going to get taken out. The Zealot run-by really is the tool to keep the Zerg at home. Like, as long as you have Zealot run-bys on the map, they need to keep units at home. If they need to keep units at home, they're not pushing with full force. And often you can still find some damage anyway. It just puts them in much more of an all-in position than they want to be. And with Lurkers, you never really want to move out across the map when you're all-in. Because it's not so easy to kill your opponent very quickly. You can break a single base, but your opponent can just pull back. Because Lurkers don't really have very good chasing capabilities. As my Zealots are just waiting for something here. Saying, hey, like, when are you going to move out, bud? Just making sure I have loads of units all around the map. Just going to hide my Zealots a bit. Don't want to get spotted by these Lings. Do want to keep this base alive, though. It's actually kind of important for me. There's apparently a bunch of Lurkers here as well. I decide to run in towards the natural as a result. And I'm going to attack his 5th base as well with my Zealots on the left. If he has a 5th base, that is, of course. Oh, now I realize that there's 4 Disruptors stuck behind my Adept in the wall. So I'm going to take out this hatch. Almost feel like I probably should recall my Zealots after that. After something like that. I just let them die now because they were surrounded. I feel like I maybe should have tried recalling them there. Might be worth it. 700-800 minerals. I mean, it's not a huge amount of money if you have as many probes as I do. But it's still a decent amount of money, which could be important. Now, my Disruptors are out. And yes, my opponent has a very large Lurker count, but he has almost no creep as well. Which should make it somewhat easier for me to deal with all of this. So he's gonna move up here. Gonna try and fight it. Disruptor shot's hitting absolutely nothing. Next Disruptor shot's gonna kill 1 Lurker. You always need 2 Purification Ovens, of course, to deal with a Lurker. So now he decides to kind of move out towards the middle of the map. And I can just clean this fairly easily. There we go. Got a bunch of shots in. Don't really want to stand in Lurker range with my Stalkers. That's probably a mistake. The Zealot's also a bit too far forward. But this run-by is dishing out some damage. Don't forget, I have real nice upgrades always. Because of the the two things, the two forges. I think right now I'm on 3-2 already. Yeah, it feels very, very nice. Just blinking in forward, more zealots on the way. I'm still maxed out. My opponent still has a couple of these lurkers here. I wasn't quite expecting that in that position. And that revelation also didn't quite hit the way I wanted it to. At the same time, it literally just doesn't matter. I'm still on 5 bases, 6 bases on the way. He's on 4 bases. I have better upgrades. I have a better army. There is a Viper right now, which could make matters a little bit harder. But yeah, there's, in my mind, no way that he can win. He's gonna get a snipe off, isn't he? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's not gonna get the snipe off on those, though. So gonna kill a bunch of lurkers here. Now, this base is toast. Or it's very close to being toast. I'm like, wait, there's 5, 6 spines there. There's a lurker there. What do you actually have up here? And the answer is pretty much freaking nothing. He has not a single lurker, not a single spine, so just decide to go in towards the natural. And I mean, at this point it is so extremely over. I was actually surprised by how long he decided to stay in. I never quite get that, to be honest. Like, I understand wanting to stay in for a bit longer, but at this point it seems a little bit silly, you know? Like, there's freaking 30 stalkers, you know you're being outmined as well by your opponent. It's like, well, that was a nice little disruptor shot there, actually. I'm glad that he stayed in for me to be capable of doing that disruptor shot. Yeah, here I'm just kind of confused. It's like, why is he not leaving? You know, it's like, well, it's so over at this point that it's so hard to imagine a way, a world in which I will lose this game. Like, it's nice, I guess, like, shows some grit, but I know it still seems like a waste of time. GG gets called. I win my second series, and I get to play a very special player up next in Showtime. And there, once again, decide to open up with what I've been doing so far in the PvPs this tournament. Just double Adept Opener into a quick little Stargate. Trying to get some type of confirmation as to what he is doing in the early game with my probe as well. Ideally, don't lose the probe. So he should be popping down real soon. Oh, there we go. Double Stalkers have been spotted as I send out my Adept. Now, as I'm playing against Showtime, I have a feeling he's going to end up cancelling that pylon, so I decide to finish my shade. This carries quite a little bit of risk, but I decided to do it anyway, because I'm a risky man, what can I say? When you're playing against someone that is better than you sometimes need to take some liberties, and I took out his probe there for free, so he didn't manage to take out my probe. And one thing that's pretty interesting about this map is that I don't actually think Adepts are very good whatsoever here. Like, there's only 2 paths the Adept can take towards the opponent's base, and one of those paths is covered by a massive watchtower, and the other is, well, could just be covered by the next 2 stalkers. So it's really difficult for me to actually get, you know, to get in position to do something good here. And it's not something I'm very happy about at all. I was gonna move around. Wasn't quite in position though, he was, with his units. I'm just gonna shade in. I confirm that there's a nexus, which is important, and I see that there's a battery going up. I also saw another stalker. I don't know if that stalker has just popped out or if that stalker, you know, I don't know what the deal is over here. So I warp in 2 stalkers instantly. It's a very odd early game for me, so I'm just a little bit confused. Send in my oracle. So I really need some type of I need a read here. I need some confirmation as to what is going on. Okay, I got 2-3 kills, and I sent my oracle away just a little bit too late, and as a result, I'm going to lose my first oracle, which is actually extremely bad, especially because I decided to only go for a single oracle here rather than 2 oracles. So I'm not going to have an oracle available here for me. Now, I have scouted that my opponent is doing a similar thing, also playing oracle. He's gonna hit a little bit later with it though. He's still trying to do something, but it won't quite work out. My Adept still in the middle of the map. I gotta make sure that I have a proper split here. Don't want to be losing any extra workers to this. I've killed, I think it was 3 workers and lost my oracle. If he can kill 3 workers and keep both of his oracles alive, that is not necessarily a great setup for me. Yes. My probe is going to move across. I'm not in the greatest position to deal with all of this. My pylon spread is also fairly mediocre, I now see. I'm not a huge fan of how that looks. I think I can do a better job with that, providing me with more vision just all around. So I do get a big hit in there on these oracles once more. Now I'm playing 3-gate. This is not a very common build, but it's a build that I think is uncommon for no real reason. I think this is actually really freaking good. I think it's really freaking powerful. I think it's a mistake that this build isn't so common, because especially against double Oracle openers or any type of Stargate opener, it feels like there's so much value in just having one extra gateway continuously warping in. If you're playing 2-gate versus 3-gate, you can take a lot of map control with that type of stuff. As here, Showtime makes a mistake, a pretty large error at that, as he loses his first Oracle, and that means I can send an extra Stalker across the map. I only need to keep 2 at home to deal with that Oracle. So I'm pushing in, I'm killing a pylon over here, just continuing to warp. He wanted to expand faster, he doesn't quite have that 3rd gateway. Now, my Stalker count at the moment isn't necessarily brilliant or great or anything of the sort. So I push this Oracle away once more. It's very important to continue doing that. I get my own little Nexus here. I'm like, okay, I get my Nexus down. He probably scouts that with his Oracle. But I'm still cutting workers in order to produce as many Stalkers as possible. So yes, I have a base going up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm completely focusing on the economy right now. Instead, I'm like, hey, let's see if I can still deal some damage over here. So I'm sending in the Adept into my opponent's natural. And I just attack here with my Stalkers. I see that there's no battery yet, which is probably a mistake out of him. Battery isn't even really close to finishing at all. I have a very nice Stalker count. And this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say, yes, it's important to have some of that killer instinct sometimes. And it's better to push too hard and then dial it down rather than never pushing and never risking it. Sure, you'll never overextend, but you also will never kill anyone. And here, I managed actually to get a win fairly easily against Showtime, which almost never happens. Showtime is one of those players that I really struggle with at beating, because he's just so freaking solid, and I tend to be, at least in PvP, a little bit more risky in the early games. And if my tricks don't work, usually, you know, it doesn't go so well. But this is one of the first time where it felt like I didn't deal any damage early on. Like my Oracles did nothing, and then I still managed to kill him, which felt very weird to me because it usually doesn't happen. He's real good in this type of game. I was still overall happy with my unit movement and the way I played it, except for losing that initial Oracle, of course. That wasn't quite brilliant, but everything else, I honestly think I played quite well. So overall, I think I've been playing quite well in the last few days. Sometimes something clicks in a matchup, or something just, you know, the hands become a bit faster all of a sudden. I don't quite understand how it works. It's almost as if you level up a little bit, and then you just feel much more comfortable in that moment. I don't quite know what it is. So here I wasn't too happy because I forgot my warp gate. It's actually really bad if you're opening up with specifically double adept openers. And so now I'm coming in for a cheeky little scout. I throw down another Stargate, 220 in. I want to figure out what he's doing. He's like, hey, are you building a sentry over here? Are you building a stalker? And I'm just gonna build a pylon here on the low ground to try and figure all of that out as soon as I can. And so far, no luck yet trying to figure that out. So I decide to just go for double stalker just in case. Then I see he has nothing downstairs except for one stalker, and I cancel both of my gateway units and get the Nexus down. This is very, very greedy by me, okay? This is a move with a lot of risk. I don't recommend this unless you spot that there actually is a sentry. I didn't spot that there was a sentry, so I just got lucky. Now I see that there's 2 sentries, but I didn't know that before I made the call. So I took a risk, and well, the risk definitely paid off. My adepts are getting a lot of damage in as well. Gonna get 1 kill over here. Got 1 sentry out already, so I get... Gonna get 1 sentry kill and 1 probe. I think that is actually okay for me. Like I'm kind of fine with that. Doesn't feel bad. Doesn't necessarily feel brilliant either. Just it's fine. You know, I'm okay. It's getting very late stalkers here because he has such a defensive setup, right? With those sentries, with those stalkers, he can't really afford to move across the map at this moment. That is simply not in the cards for him right now. So I really do need another pylon, by the way. Look at that. Yeah, I need it quickly. Once again, poor pylon positioning. Need to have those types of pylons on the edges to spot any incoming prisms later on in the game. So try and get any amount of kills here with my Oracle. See if we can do it. I'm just kind of flying through. See that there's no battery here, and then get 1 kill. I mean, it's better to get 1 kill than to get 0 kills, but I did take a lot of damage from it. Second Oracle is now also out, as I once again go for that 3rd gate setup. I mean, it worked well the first time around. Why not try it a second time, you might say. Well, that is a very good thing. There's some very good thinking here, Harstem, let me tell you that. Some very good thinking. I'm so proud of you, buddy. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that all. Just gonna take that as simulator over there as well. I want a bit more gas so I can actually afford those 3 gates. Oh, and here, because they're split, rather than coming in together, it's hard for him to deal with it. Gotta take out one more worker. Moving towards the natural with the 1 oracle. And at the same time, come back towards the main with the first oracle and get a couple more kills over here. So real nice early game for me. I think I end up getting 5, 6 worker kills. Keep both of my oracles alive. Gotta just produce a pylon out here as well. While continuing to warp in Stalkers. I haven't seen his 3rd base yet, which is kind of what I had expected. Now, another bonus, of course, of playing 3-gate is that you're very safe. So if your opponent is deciding to attack or all-in, you have way more Stalkers than you'd usually have. And now I see, hey, he has a proxy gate. That is very interesting. I start my own little battery here in the natural, which is always going to be a good move in general. You can always cancel it if you feel like you have enough units. I do personally feel like I have enough units, so I probably shouldn't have built it in the first place, but I just wanted to be safe. I felt like I was in a good spot. So I sent a probe over to construct a nexus right now. It's going to help me out, and I do end up canceling it. I like that call. In retrospect, I still like it. Yeah, I really do. I think it's a good play. I see him moving back. He kills one of my pylons. I'm like, well, that's nice. You can get one of my pylons. But I'm going to get something else that belongs to you as I go in here and lose an oracle for free after killing 1 worker. I'm going to take out this pylon and a gateway. So I get way more done. But I've also lost an oracle now. So I guess overall the last 35 seconds were actually kind of okay for Showtime. I don't think he minds killing an oracle at all. It feels really nice because it doesn't force you to leave as many Stalkers at home anymore. Now my plan is to just take a bit of map control here. I do believe I have more Stalkers, and also with Oracles generally you can take map control even if you have less Stalkers. That's because there are stasis wards, which makes it hard for the opponent to chase, and also because if you ever fly in with an Oracle into a base, Stalkers need to be close by so they can blink on top of it. So usually players that are fighting against Oracles will maybe have more Stalkers, but will have them more split around the map. I feel like I have more Stalkers as well, so I have more Stalkers, and also he is split up, which makes life much harder for him. So I can like these moves, they would be very risky if you have a smaller Stalker count, right? But I don't have a smaller Stalker count, so all of that is kind of okay. Like just sniping a probe, killing a sentry. Like I think all of that type of stuff is really quite good. So I'm going to take my 4th base up here, or at least that should be my plan for now. That is going to be my plan, just taking a 4th base. Because we're pretty much maxed out on my 3 bases when it comes to probes. Trying to get a kill there, don't quite get it. It didn't move forward far enough. This is the type of stuff that looks pretty silly, but I think is very good. It's when you just move in and you try to right-click one of the Stalkers. It shouldn't work because the other TOS can always blink back and dodge the shot mid-air. But it's one of those things, it's like, well, you might as well try. There's really nothing to lose for you if you're making a move like this. Especially if you have superior Stalker count, because they can't blink after you. Now I see that Showtime isn't quite taking a fort yet, while I am taking a fort. I think I lost my... I have no clue what I lost there. I thought it was an oracle. Oh, it was an observer maybe. So I'm trying to figure out where this observer is, but I'm not quite finding it. Now I do lose my oracle. That sucks. Oracles have so much value in the mid-game still, with stasis wards, with revelation, pulsar beam not as much, but sometimes honestly you can use 2 oracles to defend against like a zealot run by. They're very powerful against DTs as well. Like you always have detection basically. It's just so freaking good. I really believe that losing these 2 oracles were some big mistakes here in this game. So I'm scanning, I'm scouting, I'm seeing, hey, there's a 4th base there. That's interesting. That's real interesting, buddy. You want to talk about it? As right now I'm kind of becoming afraid of potentially DTs moving in. I don't have great detection out on the map. I have some cannons. That's about it. I guess I have 1 observer. It's not like that's in the natural though, so feels a little bit scary for me. As he's starting to get a bit more confident in moving in. So I decide to send a zealot run by towards his natural. We're gonna have to wait and see if he's ready for that. Well, doesn't quite seem to be the case. He's sending over Stalkers. Now the problem with sending Stalkers to deal with Zealots is that Stalkers take a long time killing Zealots. So if you just target down probes, which is what I'm doing right now, that could kind of backfire in a way. You know, it could suck. It could really suck. So I think I killed like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 workers there. Once again, I'm just making kind of aggressive rotations where I send my zealots in one base and my stalkers in the other. This is all very simple, but because I have map control, it's hard for my opponent to deal with. So gotta send my prism in as well at the same time. I see he hardly has any workers at his fourth base. This probably should start ringing some alarm bells as I start a robo bay here. So I hope that I can actually get some stuff in, like a couple of these disruptors or something. So I'm just going to try and kind of kite away from this part. And that right now I'm outmining my opponent. Probably should be using some of that money to build some extra static defense. I think if you're outmining and you have a fifth base on the way and you're teching into disruptors, yeah, I think generally it's quite good to get some extra cannons at some bases. It definitely does help. As I'm just splitting up my army right now. I'm like, hey, I need to keep my army split so you can never seriously move out. And if you can never seriously move out, then I can't ever really die either. And that is really what I want. I don't want to be capable of dying because I have better eco. I have double upgrades coming in as well. I see there's a decently sized army. I'm actually being pushed back on 2 sides at the same time. I hadn't expected that. Probably means my opponent just has a better army and also had a perfect split here, which is really difficult to do, honestly. Having a perfect split ain't easy at all. Here, I think I make a bit of a mistake. As I should have sent this army in much quicker to counterattack. But it took me quite a while to set all of that up. I see he's moving out. So what I want to do here is I counterattack. And then I just kind of kite with my stalker force. Because I think I have more stalkers. Probably should get, yeah. I think these batteries and cannons over here in the third base are a bit silly. I think it's better to instantly build them in the natural. Because I know I can't hold this area anyway. But maybe I can hold the natural for a little bit longer. Especially with, you know, more disruptors coming out over here. I have some kiting ability. My Stalker Zealot force on the other side of the map is still trying to dish out some damage. As I'm just picking off individual Zealots from my opponent right now. So my counter-attack force is still going strong. Killed 1 base already. Now it's going for the second one. At some point it will need to come back. Because it's obvious to me I don't have enough units here to truly hold for a longer time. As these 2 Zealots will clear every single probe on that base. I still have 2 outside bases as well as my natural. So I'm like, wait, if I just send my main army back right now, I get like 1 or 2 more big warpins. I believe I'm up at least 1 upgrade at this point as well. This should be fine. So just trying to get all my units down as fast as I can. I snipe the prism instantly, go for this immortal. Also managed to take that out. And make sure that my zealots also can walk down. And here I'm actually kind of afraid for a second. Because despite my winning the entire game for a very long time, almost felt like I didn't have enough stuff. But I think upgrades kind of came through here. I still had a prism that I forgot about completely, which I'm now sending in towards the main base. And I mean, he just doesn't have any workers left, and I still have quite some workers left. I have good upgrades. I think that's my +3 that's about to finish up over here as well. So he recalls with the stalkers, but even with those 3 stalkers, he's not going to be capable of taking out the prism. And I still have a massive army elsewhere as well. GG! As I take out Showtime, and this is a rare sight, as usually I don't quite manage to beat him. Up next, another Protoss player, as it is going to be MaxPax. Pretty much the king of PvP. Although he's lost that title a little bit. He's still the best at the matchup. It's just he's been losing every now and again. And he didn't used to do that. He used to be more consistent, I think. And I also believe the new maps have a role to play in that. It seems to be a little bit easier to all-in the opponent on these new maps. So there's not too many maps with a ramp. So MaxPax is definitely going to be struggling. And with that in mind, I decided to go for a bit of an interesting build here. Okay, now stay with me as I'm about to explain it. So this is a 4-gate play, but it starts with 2 adepts. The 2 adepts don't actually help at all in the build. They're actually quite bad. But on the ladder, I've been playing a lot of double adept openers versus MaxPax, which then end up going into a proxy Stargate. So this is kind of like a mind game on an earlier situation that has happened, basically. That's kind of what I'm going for. I'm like, okay, this is... I like the thought of that generally as well, just having this type of like little... like just inter-game mind games where I'm showing one thing that I've always shown with Proxy Stargate, and now I want to, you know, I want to play double adept into a 4-gate and hope that his response is a little more lax than it usually is against double adept. Because I noticed the last few times he kind of started hard countering my proxy Stargate already when I was playing against him on the ladder. He started getting like a blind battery in the main base, maybe delaying his forge a little bit longer. So these things, these are definitely things that could hurt. Now, he's decided to not throw down a Nexus, but instead a very fast Stargate. I think this is actually much better for him as well. It makes it easier for him to hold these types of attacks. I'm not sure if this would make it easier for him to hold a proxy Stargate, so I was actually kind of surprised to see this. I was like, man, that's actually a pretty, like, in my mind, that's a pretty odd move, right? It's like, wow, that's really quite significant. Now, it does get the scout as to what I'm doing, so now he has full information as I'm trying to shade in. You can literally never shade in versus MaxPax, though. It actually just never works. Like, I can't remember the last time I managed to shade in against MaxPax. I just never can. Whenever I try, it doesn't work. It's insane. He's so freaking good at this game. When it comes to that type of stuff, he's so quick. His eyes are so fast on the mini-map. It's absolutely maddening. So I'm trying my best to deal some damage here preemptively to this setup already. But yeah, now I have 2 adepts that haven't really achieved anything, which I'm kind of sad about. Here's an Oracle flying in as he starts his stasis ward. And here I make a pretty sizable error. 346 is when I pull out of minerals, and check when I put them back in. I thought I had already sent them back in, but I didn't. So right now I'm like, wait a second, I forgot about that. That was like 14 seconds of no mining or so. That's pretty big, because now I have no money for extra stalkers. I could have sent them in like after 2 or 3 seconds again. And it's really freaking painful. And I just don't have the stalker count, and because I also opened up with 2 adepts, I don't have the ability to burst through a battery yet with the current stalker count. So I'm just overall I'm in a really bad spot. I micro like a wet tea bag once more as well, and I think targeting down the gateway here generally is a good plan, but because I'm so far behind, I don't think it really matters anymore at this point. Here I do it much quicker, I do it much better the way that I respond to this. Now I send the probes back practically instantly. There's still 4 probes that I didn't quite catch, but yeah, it's too late already. I just don't have it. I tap out. There was absolutely no way I was gonna win. This was not a game in which I left early, by the way. I know this was, people will say, oh, you could have stayed in longer, but I literally couldn't have stayed in longer. The game was 100% over from here on out. And in the next game, I told myself, all right, if this is how you respond to a double adept, then I feel pretty comfortable going for another proxy Stargate against you. So I open up with a double adept proxy Stargate. A little bit delayed on that warp gate. That's always going to be the case. You just don't quite have the gas for it. That's of course okay. And the beauty of this build is that you have a very fast Oracle, but you also have a pretty quick Nexus anyway. So it feels very comfortable all around. He has that adept that he's going to be sending out across the map right now. Whenever he gets the faster Nexus, he always sends out an adept. So this is actually a different build from last game that is. So it's just kind of blindly switching things up, which makes sense. I think he's almost forced into doing that. I do actually kind of like that. I think it is good play by him to kind of switch it up ahead of time. It makes sense to me. To me, it really does make sense. We're going to have a Nexus here on that low ground. Already, very quickly in. You just love to see that type of stuff, don't you? You love to see that type of stuff as he does get the shade. Like I said, you legit never get in with your adepts. It just doesn't happen. I mean, the crazy thing is that if it does happen, that they pretty much loses the game for free. So it would be real freaking bad for him. But it generally, as a general rule, it just doesn't happen. It just actually just doesn't happen. Okay, he's always fine. Right, he's always fine. So he's getting a Void Ray out. It's obviously not quite going to be in time. That's just the way of the world. Oh, and I managed to escape here with my Oracle after killing 4 workers, forcing away a pool as well. It's gonna cancel that battery in time. Probably should have just stayed on the other side of the map with these adepts continuously forcing out. Continuously forcing out these types of buildings. I didn't do that. That is my mistake. I decided to only go for a single Oracle rather than 2 Oracles. I wonder if that's a mistake. I think it's fine to play single Oracle here as he's trying to get in here. I have a 3rd gate that is about to finish up. I wonder if getting a third gate is also a good move, or if that's a bad move, or it's a brilliant move, or it's a sucky move. I'm just not entirely sure, to be quite honest. Like I'm never quite entirely sure about these types of things. I feel like it's, I don't know. I don't know if it's correct. Anyway, because if I just get a really fast third base, I think at this point I might be in a better spot. I do decide to go for a Dark Shrine. Well aware of the fact that my opponent has detection if he builds an Oracle, but I don't think he's going to build an Oracle because it's very expensive. I tried to shade in, and of course it doesn't work because it never freaking works when you're playing against MaxPax. This is not speculation, it is just a fact. You know, this is the objective truth, is that you can never get in with adepts against him. It's literally impossible. This guy's a true gangster when it comes to keeping up his walls. He's very, very good at it. I cut a couple of workers because I really wanted to go attack him. A lot of the time, when you're playing against MaxPax, what he will end up doing is taking a fast third base anyway. You know, no matter what happens, he's just taking a fast third. I'm really surprised by seeing a probe here, as well as seeing that Phoenix. I'm like, huh, what is that? What's kicking up over here, buddy? It's kind of weird, no? So now I think that he's going to try and get into my main, so I'm trying to catch that, and I do manage to catch that. I get my own third base pretty soon, as my opponent doesn't have one yet. So my adepts are now trying to run in. Run in. Nexus on the way. So I see another probe, so I'm pretty sure at this point it's going to be Dark Templar. I also see that he's building a Robo, which is great for him, because I am also building Dark Templar. It's just, these probe scouts, they are very weird to me, and they scare the ever-living crap out of me. So I'm gonna send in this little double adept shade here. Could technically finish it. Don't think I should. Don't think I do. But you could. You know, I did manage to get in. That's more than I usually do, so that's nice already. Robo's on the way, so I'm actually really afraid right now. I'm just kind of spotting to see where the DTs are gonna come. I'm so sure that there are DTs. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, oh man. 100% there's going to be DTs here, right? Like 100%. Like, it's not I'm not even joking. At the same time, I warp in some stuff on the other side of the map myself as well. So I'm looking to deal some good old damage over here. I think I warped in 1 DT. Maybe 2 DTs? I can't even remember. And I just saw it happen. Oh wait, it's 2 adepts that I shaded in here now. Very cool. Actually getting a couple of kills. This is something that never happens. Okay, I have one DT here. As he moves out with Stalkers, or sorry, with a Void Ray. Probably means there's Stalkers nearby as well, because who's going to move out with just a Void Ray? I thought I was being faked, you know? I was like, okay, how can he attack me? He surely has to have DTs. Like, there's no other way that he can attack me. It's simply not possible. And I was just constantly waiting for DTs to show up into my natural. And they never do. So it's like, they never go into my natural. Like, what the heck is this? I did spot an observer just now. I'm like, hey, come here, Mr. Observer. That's nice. Gonna try taking you out as I run in with my own DT. Start dealing a bit of damage there. Can start dealing a bit of damage. I blinking for it. I think this was a mistake. Void Ray damage output is, of course, very freaking good. So I kill a bunch of workers there on the other side of the map with my DT, but I lose some Stalkers. I do have a fort base on the way already. I have good gateway count as well. Get about 10 kills with 1 DT. That is actually very solid, but I have to be a bit careful. Because my supply right now isn't looking that great. Especially my army supply. He could potentially attack my fort base. So I'm just kind of moving around. Having a good old time. Start my DT as well. And I'm gonna put my stasis wards in some nice spots. Yeah, that's the beauty of keeping your Oracle alive, is that you just can have stasis wards basically the entire game. I mentioned it before, I'm gonna mention it again. If you can just throw down stasis wards for the rest of the game with this guy, like, that is a sweet job. You know, you're not quite retired, you're still getting paid, you're having a good time, you know, you're building things. Because everyone loves building things. That's why IKEA is so popular. People think people go to IKEA because of, you know, the furniture and the use of it, but I think deep down all of us just want to build things, you know, feel useful. And that's why IKEA works so well. It's an experience of joy on top of giving you furniture. You know, it allows you to feel like you've done something that day. People that have finished building IKEA furniture are always tired, but the good type of tired, you know. It's not tired because you've been binge watching Netflix shows all day. No, it's tired because you put in the work. You know, that's a much better feeling. So I'm currently up an entire base, and I'm starting to poop my pants a little bit, because the last time I was this far ahead against MaxPax was in the... Well, Ronald Reagan was still in office back then. That's how long ago it is. As I saw a little observer here. He pops open one of my stasis wards. As my prism is now ready to attack. And I probably should have gotten a cannon in my main base here as well. I just realized. Probably would be a smart move. I see that he doesn't even have a fort base yet. I take out 2 more workers. Huge moves, of course. As always. That's just kind of how I do it, though. You know, I'm a huge mover. I move in large ways. What can I say, guys? What can I say? So just warping some stuff to try and go into that prism as I move out on the map with my stalkers at the moment. I mean, at this point I have such insane map control. I already have another fort, I just realized. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Let's just get a 5th base then. So I'm up a base. Now see that this was getting attacked. For a second I thought it was DTs. Then I realized it was 2 adepts. It made me very happy. Because I did not want to fight against DTs. And I think I can just pretty much fight here. As my prism goes in towards the natural. I'm in such a sick spot right now. I really am in such a sick spot. So here we go. Just gonna right click this little thing. He pulls away his workers, I guess. Got a cannon in my main. And life is feeling good again as I take out that Nexus. He shows up with a bunch of stuff there. My prism is about to die. But I kill his base, so I'm not sure who's winning here. I think it's me, though. Just gonna clear this thing anyway. Oh boy, does that feel good. I'm trying to clear a cannon, which is never gonna be cleared. That's face facts here. I'm up 1 base right now, soon to be up 2 bases. As my 5th is also on the way. Now I have lost some gateway production, which actually sucks. He has a crap ton of stalkers, which I hadn't quite expected. Probably should be trying to go in for a zealot run by at this point. But usually when MaxPax gets back in control, even just a little bit, that's when things become really hard. Look at his stalker count as well. I'm not quite sure how this is even possible. This guy has been down a base for the past 5 minutes. Seems like he has 4 more stalkers than I do over here. These zealots aren't really helping me out. He drops on top of the cannon here. I try to go for the, what do you call it, for the super battery. I'm really struggling here to hold on. At the same time, he's kind of out multitasking me by winning 2 fights at the same time. These DTs are alive. Is he going back into my main right now, or what's the play? I don't quite know. So I'm losing a lot. I'm not mining a whole bunch either, and that actually freaking sucks for me. Oh, at the same time, DT's back in the main. Yeah, there we go. I don't have enough gas income. Don't have enough mineral income either, though. So I just don't have enough income in general. I'm trying to clear my opponent out of my base, but I can't even warp in the DT to take him out for good. So I have to rely on zealot warpings. His stalker count is growing slowly but surely. And he probably has a fort base behind all of this as well. He's just not losing units. And I am definitely losing probes. I'm definitely losing units as well. It's just not looking very good for me. I tried to catch something, but it doesn't work out. And yeah, I just kind of get outplayed, despite being in a really good spot. He just gets 1 moment where he gets in with the prism, and I'm not quite ready for it. I don't have a cannon, I don't have a battery. He just absolutely destroys me there, and yeah, just pretty much wins the game, wins the series. I get knocked out, but nonetheless pretty happy with his overall performance. Because usually I don't quite manage to beat Showtime, and usually my games against MaxPax don't look this close, especially not in macro. So overall I'm kind of happy with this, and we're going to keep working on this. I managed to beat Hero as well last weekend, so the skill is slowly but surely coming back into my old and crunchy fingers. But we're going to win a tournament somewhere within the next 5 months. I can feel it. It's going to happen. All right, that will be it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.